Tonight, we delve into the chilling depths of 3 spine-tingling tales that will haunt your dreams. 1. The Haunting of Hollow Hill Cottage. Follow a young couple as they move into their dream home, only to discover a malevolent ghost determined to exact vengeance from beyond the grave. 2. The Descent into Madness. Join Sarah as she befriends a charming neighbor in a remote countryside cottage, only to uncover dark secrets that lead her into a nightmarish confrontation with a restless spirit. 3. The Haunting of Unit 13. Enter an old apartment building where a friendly neighbor turns into a ghostly enigma, leading Alex on a terrifying journey through dark secrets and deadly consequences. Prepare for a night of terror and intrigue as we explore these haunted tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of the horror. Fear Files, where every story is a journey into the unknown.
Sarah and Mark Reynolds had always dreamed of owning a charming old home, and when they found the Victorian mansion in the small picturesque town of Eldridge, it felt like a dream come true. Nestled among leafy streets and neatly trimmed lawns, the house seemed perfect. Its ornate woodwork and grandiose windows whispered of a bygone era. They moved in with excitement and hope, eager to start their new life. Their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, was the first to greet them. A frail woman with silver hair and a kind smile, she welcomed them warmly and offered a pie she had baked herself. Her presence was both comforting and mysterious, her eyes holding an unfathomable depth. Sarah and Mark were charmed by her, but there was something about her that felt oddly unsettling. The first few weeks were blissfully normal. The couple enjoyed unpacking and decorating their new home, which was as beautiful as it was old. However, as the days passed, they began to notice strange things. Whispers in the walls, inexplicable flickers of the lights, and objects that seemed to move on their own. One night, as they settled into their new bed, Sarah heard a faint, sorrowful whisper. She strained to listen, but it faded before she could make out any words. She dismissed it as her imagination playing tricks on her, but the unease lingered. The strange occurrences grew more frequent. Mark noticed cold spots in certain rooms and heard footsteps when no one else was around. Sarah began to see glimpses of Mrs. Thompson disappearing into thin air, her figure fading like a mist. The atmosphere in the house became oppressive, and the once joyous home now felt like a prison. Determined to get to the bottom of the unsettling events, Sarah delved into the house's history. She visited the local library and spoke with longtime residents, piecing together information about the house and its previous occupants. What she uncovered was both horrifying and tragic. Years ago, Mrs. Thompson had lived in the house with her family. The story went that her family had grown greedy and resentful, driven by jealousy and greed. They had brutally murdered her in a fit of rage, driven by a desire to claim her wealth. Her spirit, trapped by the violent and unjust death, had remained in the house, seeking vengeance. Sarah confronted Mrs. Thompson one evening as the sun set. The elderly woman's ghostly form appeared, her eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and rage. "Why are you here?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "I was betrayed," Mrs. Thompson's voice echoed with a mournful resonance. "They took everything from me. Now, anyone who dares to live here will suffer as I have." As Sarah and Mark struggled to understand the ghost's motives, the hauntings grew more intense. The whispers became wails, the flickering lights turned into blinding flashes, and the objects moved with a malevolent force. The couple's relationship, already strained by the stress of their new home, began to unravel. Mark's skepticism turned to fear, and he started to question his own sanity. He tried to rationalize the occurrences, attributing them to the house's age or structural issues, but deep down, he knew something more sinister was at play. Sarah, on the other hand, became increasingly obsessed with the ghost's history, convinced that understanding the past was the key to stopping the hauntings. One night, as Sarah was researching in the attic, she found a hidden compartment in the wall. Inside, she discovered old letters and photographs that revealed the full extent of the betrayal Mrs. Thompson had suffered. The letters spoke of a family's greed and cruelty, and the photographs showed the once happy family, their smiles now tainted by the horror of what had happened. The discovery only intensified the hauntings. Mrs. Thompson's ghost became more aggressive, her anger manifesting in violent and terrifying ways. Sarah and Mark were forced to confront their deepest fears as they fought to keep their sanity and their lives intact. Desperate to put an end to the torment, Sarah and Mark sought the help of a local historian and paranormal expert. The historian, Mr. Langdon, revealed that to appease Mrs. Thompson's restless spirit, they needed to perform a ritual to address her grievances and lay her to rest. The ritual required a deep understanding of Mrs. Thompson's life and the events leading up to her death. Sarah and Mark, guided by Mr. Langdon, prepared for the ritual with a mix of dread and determination. As they performed the ritual in the heart of the house, the temperature dropped and the air thickened with an oppressive force. Mrs. Thompson's ghost appeared in full, her figure radiating a palpable rage. As the ritual progressed, her form began to shift and waver. Sarah and Mark, exhausted and terrified, held their ground, reciting the incantations and performing the necessary rites. The house shook, and a deafening roar filled the air. In the final moments of the ritual, Mrs. Thompson's ghost let out a heart-wrenching cry before her form began to dissolve into the ether. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and a profound silence settled over the house. Sarah and Mark, though exhausted, felt a sense of relief. The house, once a place of torment, now felt peaceful and calm. Sarah and Mark decided to stay and rebuild their lives, finding solace in the knowledge that they had confronted the darkness that had haunted their home. They learned that confronting the past and understanding its impact was crucial to finding peace. As they looked out at the quiet suburban neighborhood, they felt a renewed sense of hope and purpose. Their dream home had become a symbol of their resilience and their triumph over the malevolent forces that had once threatened their lives. The story of the Reynolds home became a legend in Eldridge, a reminder of the power of unresolved trauma and the importance of facing the past to secure a peaceful future. Sarah and Mark's courage and determination had turned their nightmare into a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Sarah Lawson was desperate for a change. After years of a bustling city life that left her feeling hollow, she relocated to a remote countryside cottage in the village of Eldridge. Hollow Hill Cottage was as charming as it was isolated, with ivy-covered walls and a sprawling garden that looked like something out of a fairy tale. The move was intended to be a new beginning, a chance to find solace and inspiration for her writing. Upon arrival, Sarah was greeted by Mr. Thomas Davis, the elderly neighbor from the nearby farmhouse. He was a tall man with a weathered face and a kindly demeanor. His offer to help her settle in was welcomed, and his knowledge of the area proved invaluable. He spoke with a warmth that belied his age, and Sarah found herself drawn to his stories of local history and lore. But as the days passed, Sarah began to feel a growing unease. The cottage, though beautiful, had an air of melancholy. The once vibrant garden was overgrown, and the old wooden floors creaked with every step. Strange occurrences began to disrupt the quiet, whispers in the dead of night, flickering candle flames, and shadows that seemed to move on their own. One evening, as Sarah was unpacking in the attic, she discovered a collection of old letters and photographs hidden in a dusty trunk. The items were intriguing, but offered no immediate answers. She tucked them away, not thinking much of them. Sarah's curiosity about the village and its history grew. She spent her days exploring the surrounding countryside and talking to locals, piecing together the rich and somewhat eerie history of Eldridge. Her research led her to discover that the area had once been plagued by witchcraft accusations and trials. The stories she unearthed were disturbing, revealing a dark chapter where fear and superstition had driven people to madness. Her interactions with Mr. Davis became more frequent, and he seemed to take an unusual interest in her findings. He often spoke of the village's past with a sense of foreboding, and his stories seemed to reflect a deep-seated knowledge of the supernatural. One night, Sarah found herself alone in the cottage, the wind howling outside. She heard a faint tapping at the window and went to investigate, only to find Mr. Davis standing in the garden, his face obscured by shadows. He spoke softly, his words barely audible over the wind. The past never truly fades away. The encounter left Sarah unsettled. She decided to delve deeper into the history of Mr. Davis himself. Her research revealed a chilling truth. Mr. Davis had died decades ago, driven to madness by accusations of witchcraft. The townspeople had condemned him based on flimsy evidence and rumors, and he had met a tragic end, believed to be a victim of the very superstitions that plagued the area. As Sarah continued to investigate, the supernatural occurrences in the cottage became more frequent and intense. She would wake to find objects moved from their places, doors creaking open and closed, and the feeling of being watched. The whispers she heard seemed to echo Mr. Davis's words, and his presence became increasingly menacing. Sarah began to feel trapped, both physically and mentally. Her once peaceful retreat now felt like a prison. She started seeing apparitions of Mr. Davis, his ghostly figure appearing in the corners of her vision, always just out of reach. He would speak to her in cryptic phrases and insist that she was reliving his torment. The lines between reality and illusion began to blur. Sarah's nights were plagued by nightmarish visions of the witchcraft trials and the cruel accusations that led to Mr. Davis's death. She found herself drawn into a surreal, twisted version of the past, where she played the role of an accused witch facing her own demise. Her mental state deteriorated as she struggled to distinguish between the spectral world and reality. Desperate, she sought help from the few locals she had come to know. However, they seemed either unwilling or unable to help, their eyes avoiding hers when she mentioned Mr. Davis or the hauntings. Realizing that she needed to confront the source of her torment, Sarah prepared to perform a ritual to communicate with Mr. Davis's spirit. She believed that understanding his grievances and providing some form of closure might free her from the haunting. With the help of old books and guides she found in the cottage, Sarah set up a ritual in the attic, the place where she had first found the old trunk. The ritual required candles, symbols, and incantations meant to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. As she began, the atmosphere in the cottage grew thick with an oppressive presence. Mr. Davis's ghost appeared in full force, his form shifting between anger and sorrow. He spoke of betrayal and injustice, revealing the depth of his torment and the reasons behind his unending anger. The ritual brought forth a vision of the past, a scene of his trial and death, filled with the cries of an unjustly condemned man. Sarah's confrontation with Mr. Davis was intense and terrifying. She pleaded with him to find peace, explaining that she was not part of the past and that continuing to haunt her would not change what had happened. She offered her sympathy and understanding, acknowledging the pain he had endured. As the ritual reached its climax, the intensity of the supernatural occurrences peaked. The cottage shook and a deafening roar filled the air. Sarah felt herself being pulled into the vision of Mr. Davis's final moments, but she held firm, repeating her pleas for him to find peace. The ghost's rage began to wane, replaced by a profound sadness. The oppressive atmosphere in the cottage lifted, and Mr. Davis's form started to dissolve. His final words were a mixture of regret and release, as if he were finally letting go of his anger. The next morning, Sarah awoke to a serene and quiet cottage. The oppressive weight that had hung over her had vanished, replaced by a sense of calm. She looked around and found the house had returned to a semblance of normalcy, with the haunting occurrences gone. Sarah decided to stay in Eldridge, having faced and overcome the darkness that had once threatened her. She continued her writing, finding inspiration in her experiences and the history of the area. The tale of Hollow Hill Cottage became a local legend, a story of torment and redemption that echoed through the village for years to come. The haunting of Hollow Hill Cottage was a testament to the power of unresolved grievances and the strength required to confront and overcome them. Sarah's journey was one of self-discovery and resilience, a reminder of the impact of the past on the present and the possibility of finding peace amidst the darkness. Alex Harper was ready for a fresh start. After a tumultuous breakup and a chaotic few months, moving into an apartment with a picturesque view seemed like the perfect escape. Unit 13 in the Briarwood offered both a chance for peace and a creative space to focus on graphic design projects. The apartment's old-world charm was complemented by modern amenities, making it a comfortable, albeit slightly eerie, retreat. The view from the large bay window was stunning, offering a panoramic look at the bustling city below. Alex's neighbor, Emily Caldwell, was quick to introduce herself. She was warm and welcoming, a striking contrast to the coldness Alex had felt in recent months. Emily's friendly demeanor made Alex feel at ease, and they quickly struck up a friendship. Emily, an aspiring artist, was always eager to offer tips and advice on local spots and hidden gems. Their conversations were filled with laughter and the promise of new beginnings. However, the initial charm of the apartment was soon overshadowed by unsettling occurrences. Alex started to notice things moving on their own, books shifting, cups falling, and strange cold drafts despite the weather. At first, Alex dismissed these incidents as the quirks of an old building, but the disturbances became harder to ignore. One night, Alex was woken by a whispering voice, barely audible yet hauntingly clear. The whispers seemed to come from all directions, leaving Alex unsettled. Despite their skepticism, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Determined to uncover the source of the disturbances, Alex began to investigate the history of the Briarwood. The building's past was shrouded in rumors and old stories. The more Alex dug, the more they uncovered a dark history of mysterious disappearances and tragedies. Emily was more than willing to help with Alex's research, her enthusiasm a stark contrast to the growing unease in the apartment. However, Alex began to notice Emily's odd behavior. She seemed to have an uncanny knowledge of the building's secrets and often spoke of the past with an unsettling familiarity. One evening, after a particularly disturbing night of noises and whispers, Alex stumbled upon an old newspaper article in the building's basement archives. The article detailed the murder of a young woman named Emily Caldwell, who had been killed in the Briarwood decades earlier by a jealous lover. The details matched Emily's description, and Alex realized with horror that the woman in the article was the same Emily who had been so friendly. The revelation was chilling. Alex confronted Emily, who, with a somber expression, confirmed the truth. Emily's ghost was trapped in the apartment, bound by the need for justice and retribution. Her death had been a tragic result of a love gone wrong, and her spirit was now seeking closure. Emily's ghostly presence grew more intense as the days went by. The supernatural disturbances became increasingly violent, doors slamming shut, lights flickering, and the whispers evolving into anguished cries. Alex's attempts to ignore the phenomena were futile. The ghost's anger was palpable, and its demands for justice grew more insistent. Emily's ghost began to manipulate Alex, drawing them into reliving her torment. Alex was haunted by visions of the past, scenes of the murder, the jealousy of her lover, and the betrayal that had led to her death. Each vision left Alex more terrified and disoriented, blurring the line between reality and the spectral world. The once friendly relationship between Alex and Emily turned toxic. Emily's desperation for justice became a relentless demand, pushing Alex to investigate further into the building's dark past. The apartment, once a sanctuary, now felt like a prison. Alex reached out to other tenants, hoping to find someone who might have more information. However, many were hesitant or dismissive, their reluctance to talk only adding to the sense of isolation. A visit to the local library revealed that the building had a history of being involved in scandals and secrets, but concrete details about Emily's murder remained elusive. Realizing that they needed to confront the ghost to find a resolution, Alex prepared to perform a ritual to communicate directly with Emily's spirit. Armed with information from old records and paranormal guides, Alex set up a seance in the apartment, hoping to uncover the truth and provide Emily with the closure she needed. The seance was an intense and terrifying experience. The apartment grew cold, and Emily's ghost appeared in full, her form a shifting blend of anger and sorrow. She revealed the full extent of her murder, a story of betrayal and jealousy that had led to her tragic end. The spirit's anguish was palpable, and Alex was forced to confront the brutality of the past. During the seance, Emily's ghost spoke of a specific location within the building where evidence of her murder might be found, a hidden room behind a false wall. Driven by desperation, Alex searched the apartment and discovered the hidden room, uncovering old letters and items that provided crucial evidence about Emily's murderer. Armed with the evidence, Alex sought help from the authorities. The documents revealed the identity of Emily's killer and the motive behind the crime. The case, long considered cold, was reopened, and the truth about Emily's death was finally brought to light. The resolution brought a sense of peace to Emily's ghost. The hauntings in the apartment gradually ceased, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. Emily's spirit, now free from the chains of her past, left behind a sense of calm. Alex, though shaken by the experience, found a renewed sense of purpose. The ordeal had tested their beliefs and forced them to confront the unknown. They moved on from the Briarwood, but the haunting of Unit 13 remained a hauntingly vivid chapter in their life. The story of Emily Caldwell and the Briarwood became a legend in the city, a tale of tragedy, justice, and the unyielding quest for closure beyond the grave. Alex's experience was a testament to the power of confronting the past and the impact of unresolved trauma on the living world.
Thanks for watching Fear Files. We hope these chilling stories left you shivering and captivated. If you enjoyed tonight's eerie adventures, give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're always the first to dive into our next spine-tingling tale. Until then, keep the lights on and your curiosity sharp. The darkness is never too far away. Stay tuned for more bone-chilling stories, and remember, fear is just a heartbeat away. Fear Files, where nightmares come to life.